inside of the chalet was all pale wood and light stone. Exposed beams framed a vast room where rows of chairs stretched toward a glass wall overlooking the lake. A side staircase led up to a mezzanine lined with a wooden railing and the doors to the bedrooms. Beyond the glass, the lake shimmered, mirroring the trees and the soft autumn light. Sunbeams filtered through the windows, bathing the scene in gold and copper hues. Simple floral arrangements lined the aisle, elegant yet natural. Nikkie, radiant in a lavender cocktail dress, stepped onto the small stage. She held a microphone and smiled warmly.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this wonderful day. Greg and Simon are finally getting married. We've seen them learn to love each other, to accept one another, to compromise, to make choices, but always to move forward together. We've watched them grow side by side, their love only deepening with time. I've often heard our friends say, if Greg dies, Simon dies, and vice versa. We all know there's truth in those words, but I'd like to offer another version. If Greg is happy, so is Simon, and vice versa. They are each other's happiness. The love they share is one of the purest and most beautiful I've ever witnessed. I'm an artist. I sing about love, but no words could truly express what they mean to one another. So I've decided to sing about them. Greg, Simon, this song is for you. We're all waiting for you.
As the first notes filled the room, Nikkie's clear voice rose with the melody.
When one's lost, the other's light. When one laughs, they both take flight. They keep walking side by side. Two hearts, one life.
The couple entered hand in hand, fingers intertwined. They walked down the aisle beneath the smiles and greetings of their guests. At the end of the song, they hugged Nikkie tightly before taking their place. Overwhelmed with emotion, they clasped hands, eyes locked. Though they stood at the center of everyone's attention, Simon saw only Greg, and Greg saw only Simon.
Marry them already!
Tiff's voice burst their bubble, and they laughed through their embarrassment and joy. Bryan exchanged a glance with Marc. It was time. Adrian gave Marc's shoulder a reassuring squeeze, and under the gaze of the entire crowd, Marc pushed himself upright and walked toward them. "Marc!" Simon threw his arms around him, nearly knocking him off balance. Marc laughed and returned the embrace.
Surprise! I promised myself I'd walk to your wedding.
Simon swallowed hard, tears already burning in his eyes. His voice was rough when he spoke.
That's the best gift you could ever give me.
Marc cupped his face with a smile.
I wish you happiness, brother.
Simon did the same, holding Marc's face between his hands, his eyes shining. He turned his gaze briefly to Adrian, then back to his best man.
You too.
In the front row, Tiff discreetly handed a tissue to Mammina, who was already sniffling. Her tears returned full force as the couple began exchanging vows. On the small side table near them rested the box containing their rings. Greg had insisted on handling it himself. Simon, trembling on the edge of tears, reached for it, but Greg covered his hand with his own, eyes glistening. Together, Simon nodded. Inside were their wedding bands, but for a moment he didn't understand. The rings were looped around a sleek black fountain pen with gold trim. Frowning slightly, he looked up to find Greg smiling tenderly at him. Carefully, Greg slid the rings free and handed him the pen. On the clip, engraved in small letters, were the words, "As promised." Greg's voice wavered as he spoke. "I want you to use this to sign the papers. It's the symbol of my promise." Simon kissed his hand softly.
You promised to make me happy, and that's exactly what you're doing, baby.
He held Greg's gaze for a long moment, then slipped the golden band onto his husband's finger. his own breath trembling, lips pressed tight to hold back tears.
Greg, baby, I love you.
And I love you, Superman. Always. Greg's hand shook as he slid the second ring onto Simon's finger. Their hands met, palms to palms, foreheads touching, hearts aligned.
Viva gli sposi!
Mammina cried out the words through her tears of joy, and the guests joined in, cheering and clapping as the newlyweds kissed. Then came the signing. Greg signed first, then handed the pen to Simon, who signed in turn. As he straightened up, still smiling, Greg handed him a brown envelope.
Don't forget these.
Simon raised an eyebrow, glancing toward the officiant, who was already tucking the marriage certificate into his briefcase. Perplexed, he looked to Bryan and Marc, both smiling but silent. Curiosity winning, he opened the envelope. Inside were 2 neatly stacked sets of papers. His eyes caught the printed headers. New Horizon Center, Adoption and Surrogacy Agency. His breath caught. The world around him faded away. The papers trembled in his hands as his vision blurred. The tears he'd been holding back since the start of the ceremony finally broke free. He pressed the envelope to his chest. Clutching it so tightly, the paper crumpled beneath his fingers, as if he were afraid it might vanish.
Greg.
His voice cracked under his sobs. Greg pulled him into his arms, holding him tight. He was crying too, softly.
I told you, Superman. We're going to have our family.
He kissed his temple and rocked him gently as tears spread through the crowd. Bryan, holding his daughter, gave them a thumbs up, eyes shining. Marc, moved beyond words, leaned into Adrian. Mammina, Tiff, and Nikkie clung to one another, crying openly. Even the Falk brothers were discreetly wiping at their eyes. Everywhere, faces shone with tears and joy. Simon finally pulled back enough to meet Greg's gaze. Greg brushed away his tears, but before he could speak, Simon laughed through his sobs, spun him around and hugged him so tightly they both lost their breath. Then they kissed. A deep, breathless kiss that seemed to embrace their entire future. And, just as Nikkie had said, if Greg was happy, then so was Simon.
Side by side, they'll always be living out their destiny.